Hello, everybody. Hey, it is the
Hey.
Alpenglow Solder Sesh. We're back from hiatus. Took a little bit of a break in February because we were crazy heads down working, getting ready for this big yarn show where we debuted some new yarn tools, one of which I might even show off because it is very relevant to the topic of lasering today. But I'm super excited because I have Claire Cassidy with me. She is fantastic. She is LaserMistress on Mastodon or LaserKick Designs on Instagram. And she also works at Crowd Supply and for OSHWA, the Open Source Hardware Association. And I'm super excited to have you on the show. Thank you for coming.
Yeah. Thanks for making this space.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't done many live streams slightly on purpose, and once I wrapped my head around this one, I was very grateful because you make a good space.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That is one of my ultimate goals.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Claire, tell us. You have glitter, you have a cape, you are a superhero of lasering. What is your superhero backstory? Were you bitten by radioactive acrylic? What happened? How did you get into STEM? How did you get into lasering? Tell us all about it.
Yeah. Okay. Whew. I will try. But we will hit some points. So, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and so I've spent a lot of time in kind of creative spaces. I was lucky enough to be in creative fairly up in Bellingham, Washington, open-minded spaces where when I wanted to make stuff, I had access to my best friend's grandma, and she had a bunch of crafting supplies, and people never really questioned me enough to stop, right? Like, it's a very easygoing environment. And so I didn't feel too weird for just making whatever I felt like making as a teenager. And I started making some of the first things I gravitated towards was like, costumey stuff. But for me, it was really, I read so many fantasy books. I had and still have such an imagination and such like a high boredom threshold. Like I really need to seek and do new and novel things that I was making. I remember my first pair of rainbow feathered wings that I made when I was like 13 and wore to school. And I made jewelry all the time, and I would braid things into my hair, and I had a best friend, and so we were doing this, and it was just this creativity machine when I was pretty young. And so yeah, that really set me on a path. I went to Burning Man when I was really young. Me and my best friend went when I was 15. And just to see that those options really young, I don't necessarily venerate the culture of Burning Man. It's not better than anything else, but it does, I think, for some people, open the possibility of a couple directions, like just to exist without my phone or wallet or anything for a week, and to experience gifting and to experience that level of indulging in your creativity and community, right? Shaped me. So I started making and selling stuff. And when you do that, people want to buy it. We function under capitalism. We are pre-programmed with, I think of money as a love language. It is the way that we know to show and prescribe value. And so from a very young age, I was playing the money game of like, since I was making stuff and people liked it, they could give me money. And that is super evocative, way more evocative than the number of things I tried to get a degree in. I went to the Evergreen State College in Olympia, so that's no majors, no grades. It makes a lot of sense. And I just always felt most driven by and successful in making what I had in my head and then showing it to people and then selling it. So I did that for over a decade, pretty early on. And I moved from going to festivals because to sell stuff, for me, it was really both online and event based. Because this was like like at least a decade or more, 15 years ago now. So online sales were just kind of starting. Got in on Etsy really early. But selling things in person was really the thing. And I couldn't do a brick and mortar. So I was going to festivals at first, and then I started going to conventions. And there's just, events are a whole galaxy to me, right? And they kind of like, you can go from like Comic-Cons to the steampunk events that were happening back then to furry events. There's like some really huge furry event, and I fucking love furries. Sorry, can I swear?
Yeah, totally. You can totally swear. No, that's so funny because like I was talking to some people this weekend who came into my booth, and we had like all of our little kits, like our solderless kits and stuff up. And they were like, do you go to any furry conventions? Because I think you would do really well at furry conventions. And I was like, you're not the first person who's told that to me. Like,
of course, yes. I mean, the culture, they're like, they have, for whatever reason, a lot of money. I think there's a lot of techies in that culture. There's a lot of money, and then this drive that does not give a fuck. They're like, I'm going to live who I want to be, and I'm going to do it with all of my power. And I love that more than I can say.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So all of these niche events, and I always kind of just had to follow the survival hustle, right? I both did it to survive internally, just a lot of this larger structure in our culture doesn't really work for me, and I think doesn't really work for a lot of people, and we've all started feeling that more in the last couple of years. I felt it keenly really early on. I'm like, well, none of this really fits. Fuck.
Yeah.
Running my own business, like kind of creating my own reality, right? And then exploring all of these events, but also I always had to make enough money, and it just never, I think you can understand this, it never stops. It's like, it's a machine. It's an
endless hustle.
It's the hustle. Yeah. I think of it as like when I was the hustle, and it was my identity, and it was my life. So, I do not regret a single fucking moment of that. Whenever anybody's like, don't do what you love for money, I'm like, fucking don't agree, but like, it's not a right, wrong thing. That gave me just a ridiculous amount of skills, like having done that for so long, because it doesn't, you can't encapsulate the range of things you need to learn. You just need to adapt and be successful all of the time. So that kept up with my like creativity and fast brain, and was really good for me for a long time until it wasn't. And I was spending too much time at home, like just isolated in my room, crafting, because I was making all of my own merch. And I eventually, after making a lot of different things, I ended up with glowing clip-on cat ears. I have a pair here. Nice. And laser cut jewelry. So lasers when they were early, right?
I might be a fan of the laser cut jewelry that you make.
Yeah, I've been into that for a minute. Yeah. And that's a good story, actually. So I was working as a barista in a coffee stand. Here's the cat ears.
Oh my God, so cute.
You can't really see them in this light, but they're glowing pink.
Cool.
Yeah, like that.
Oh my God, those are awesome.
Yeah. So cat ears. Oh man.
I can see how they would do super well at furry conventions too. Like
really. Yeah. And so cat ears, absolutely everybody wants to own a pair of cat ears. I can tell you that. There is not a single human that I can't sell cat ears to.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you put them up and I was like, oh, I need those.
I know. So how I got into making glowing cat ears. I was reading a webcomic in like 2007, early MySpace time. And there was a character that was wearing a beanie with floppy cat ears. And I lost my fucking mind and started making fleece cat hats with kitty ears on them around that time. And at that time, in like 2007, 2008, there was not a single pair of cat ears, like not the cat ear head hoods with scarves, right? Or the cat ear head, like metal headbands. Those did not exist anywhere in any mall or any store. You couldn't buy them.
Crazy.
So
Crazy.
I made fleece hats with cat ears and made bank at the first anime convention I ever went to, SakuraCon. And again, me and my friend at the time, we were doing this together. So we were just compounded teenage girl energy, which you cannot stop. And like, we would find out things like you can have a business license at any age and no one will stop you.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah.
We were just getting into absolute mayhem, like very chaotic good. I still am. And from fleece beanie cat ears, I was like, well, people just want the cat ears. And so I was attempting to make cat ears on headbands. Headbands are uncomfortable. I ended up with these on clips and put lights in them because I did. And the lights in here are tea lights. They're, I don't know if we can see.
Yeah.
They are standard little twisty tea lights.
Nice.
So, and I swear this is all going somewhere. So, how I got into laser cutting was a couple years later. I was working as a barista at a coffee stand, and I had also run the juggling club at Evergreen. Nice. So I'm a circus person, right? And I had been practicing juggling for a while. I identified as a juggler, and a guy came through my coffee stand. It was drive-through. And I was like, what are you up to? He's like, I'm driving up to Canada for a magic show. I'm like, oh, you're a magician? I'm a juggler. We're mortal enemies.
Wait. Why are magicians and jugglers mortal enemies?
Because one shows you their tricks at all costs and the other doesn't show you what they're doing at all costs, right? And so it's a fundamental difference of opinion.
Interesting. Yes, I can see that. Okay. Yes, this makes sense. I like it.
But it's a way I've made many friends. So we just immediately bonded. He gave me his card, and it turns out he was making magic tricks with a laser cutter. And this was in, 2011. So this is before hobby lasers.
Yeah.
And very soon after, I had been making jewelry forever, and I was like, I would give anything to make my own charms, like anything, right? So I messaged him and we just hit it off, and I started sending him just pictures or line art. I just had an idea of what lasers could do. I didn't design for them yet, but I could make designs that were laserable. So we did that for years. That was how I did like runs of charms, and I found some from back then. So that era is very this kind of
nice.
I found out about right.
Yes.
The Star Trek back then, because Paramount hadn't come back, and so now you can't really sell these. They've cracked down, but back then there was nothing, and people lost their shit. The Batlet was my bestseller for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's how I found out about a lot of materials, because I'm like, well, colors,
right?
How do? And I was just researching the shit out of materials for a long time. I was also going through, I think that I don't know, I've talked to a lot of small business owners and creators, and it drifts in this direction of we're using materials. Acrylic is plastic, and our culture is really tied up around consumerism and plastic, because we know that there's something wrong, but we don't know what to do about it. And we're learning how to deal with that as individuals in a system where it's a systemic problem. So I wrestled with this for a while in using acrylic. I see a lot of people who laser cut strictly use wood, and there's like this innate sense that cutting plastic is a bad idea. I don't agree, you don't agree, but I just think that's a funny conundrum that comes up all the time.
Well, and most of the wood is actually like mostly glue too.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. It's mostly plywood.
Yeah. There's a whole lot of gotchas. There is no right or wrong here. It's extremely complex. But for me, it played into, I bring that up because I wrestled as a small business owner with aligning it with my values for ages personally. And it did in many ways, but I ended up wanting to do other things eventually. I was both burned out on running my business. I was isolated all the time. I was exhausted of the hustle. I grew up in poverty trauma. So this was compounding that, having to survive like that. Right.
Yeah.
And so I drifted in a direction of like, what can I'm an activist. I went to Evergreen. And so well before 2020, I was doing several different protests. So I eventually drifted in a direction of like, how do I change my life in a way that aligns more with my values and is more sustainable? And I was looking at becoming a therapist. I've been told over and over again I should be a teacher or a therapist, and there's just something in me that's like, no, I don't want to do that. I know I'd be good at it, but it's also like, look at my face, like I'm supposed to do that. Like I don't want to.
Yeah, legit.
Yeah, and I met a partner. We've since drifted apart, but he had a massive effect on me because he was into open source, small scale, regenerative infrastructure. And he introduced me to a group called Precious Plastic, which is, if you haven't looked them up, they're just a phenomenon. I don't believe anything is a silver bullet, right? Like nothing fixes all of these big systemic problems we're in super easily. But we can affect the Overton window, like what we believe is possible or realistic. We can shift that culturally. I believe in that being a way change happens. And we've been seeing a lot of that in the last 3 years, this accelerated shift in reality. And it can be really destabilizing and like stressful. But it's also how new things happen. So I went in a direction all at once a couple years back in 2019. We built out a TriMet shuttle bus, which is one of the local metro shuttle buses, into the Magic Tool Bus, which was our take on like a traveling open source show off vehicle where Sam could show off some of his like regenerative designs and I could tinker. It was like a makerspace / living space.
Cool.
Yeah, it was really great. And at the same time, I went to a code boot camp, and that was so I had to have several people. No, I had to have 2 men who were close to me. One was my brother and one was a friend. Just kind of be like, you should learn how to code. You should learn how to code. There's money in it. You should learn how to code. And I had to have people close to me do that for a while before I could possibly wrap my head around it. There was so much in me that's like, not only can I not do that, there was the learned helplessness. There's also a like, I don't fit in that. That's not what I want. I've had a lot of conversations with people about this at this point, and I see a lot of I can't sit at a desk all day, or I can't stare at screens all day, or I'm not a computer person. And I kind of had that in me too, right? Eventually I bent and I started looking at boot camps, and I found that there are boot camps that try to make nods to inclusivity. The one I came across that was really dope was the Ada Developers Academy in Seattle. They're all femme queer, really good intern initiatives. They are dope as hell. They're harder to get into than MIT.
Yeah.
Right?
So I imagine there's a lot of demand.
Because they're effective.
Right?
So I found a different boot camp here in Portland, and it failed me. I don't know about anybody else. It failed me pretty horrendously. What it didn't give me a code job for sure. And I haven't really touched software all that much since because of that boot camp, which is really sad. And I hope to rectify that at some point. But it gave me, a previous hustler, the shape of this industry. And then I felt, once I understood what this cloud of like tech looks like, once I learned that there are positions that are like developer advocate, where you just talk to both tech people and normal people, I was like, oh no. And I was like a shark, right? I was like, oh, I smell blood in the water. Like I could do anything. A lot of this industry is hubris in my experience.
Indeed. Indeed.
So I poked around for a while. It was really stressful at the end of 2019, being jobless, not knowing what's going to happen. I landed the job at Crowd Supply. And at the time, it was all in person in an office here in Portland. We've gone fully remote. So the pandemic hit a month and a half into me getting that job.
Jeez, wow.
And it took this job where I had coworkers and I would leave my room.
Yeah.
And it stuck me right back in my room. I'll take it, right? Like I've been making stable remote money. Like I'll take it.
Yeah. And at that point, everybody else is starting laser businesses, right?
Yes. So at this point, I had gotten a hobby laser. Yeah, I know that's a lot, but I am trying to nutshell it. Like, and I don't
no.
We're very often
here for the story. Here for the story. I got tea. We're good.
Okay, thank you. I think that a lot of bits of that are really important to me, like how I organize what I'm doing, because I'm not in electronics to try to create new electronic stuff necessarily. I've already gotten my gold stars around being a maker. I succeeded very successfully for over a decade at people liking my shit. I don't need to prove myself, right? I know I can make good stuff. So I have these stable jobs now that give me a little bit of flexibility, and I am very determined, like I'm seeing you do here, to make as many safe spaces as I can. I try to not have hubris around it. Like I can only attract people who are kind of like me, so I'm not all that, perfect for wide inclusivity or intersectionality, and I know that about myself. But I can touch the people who relate to me.
Well, and I think that that's the important thing about inclusion too, is that it takes all of us, right? Because different people will relate to different people. And so we should just, anybody who thinks inclusion is important, just like get out there and do your thing and draw in the people that respond to you. And, obviously also be inclusive of other people who are not like you. But yeah, I mean, obviously like somebody who is Black or somebody who is Latina is probably not going to relate to me in the same way as they would, somebody else who is Black or Latina. And like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to support anybody and everybody like learning what the hell they want to learn, and people with like similar senses of humor or interest or whatever, just, in like reaching out to those people and just making them feel like included, like there's a place for them. So
that's the trick, right?
I
feel
it's super interesting what you said about like getting the lay of the land in tech and realizing that there were positions in tech that you could totally freaking do that were like right up your alley, because I think a lot of people looking in from the outside don't realize that, and they don't know the scope of the jobs and work available. It's not all just, putting together schematics and doing board layouts. It's exactly. Like maybe that's the technical part of the product, but like there's a whole ecosystem around that product that takes all sorts of different people with different skill sets to support it.
I feel that in my bones. And I have such feelings, because at this point I've been as wildly shut down as the next struggling depressed person for the last 3 years. But I am starting to move in directions of like, I'm running a camp at my regional burner event this year for the second time. And I've made this camp just to make a safe space for as many people who feel non-technical as possible. And I think I'm okay at it. Like, I'm not gangbusters at it, but I'm okay at it because that's what I come from. And I really understand it. And so, and I also have no problem. This year, we're making this beautiful, big, colorful infographic about mansplaining.
Oh my God, I have to see this.
I know.
I love it already.
Yeah, because it's been a dance since I've gotten into this industry. I find these walls of what I can talk about and what I can't really fast as compared to places that I've worked before or running my own business. Like, I had a lot of agency, and now, like, I don't know, it's felt like I've hit a lot of walls, a lot of ceilings. Like, I can only be so expressive, or like, yeah, it feels claustrophobic sometimes. And I don't know how much of that is that I've been in a pandemic and like I'm new to the industry and it's hard to find places that feel safe, but it's been rough. And so I'm trying to carve out my own spaces and like welcome people in emphatically, with interesting, like, more specific information and data. Like you pointed out, like explaining, just having a list of the types of jobs that I know exist in tech, right?
Yeah.
Just like printing that out and putting it on the table. Or there's a great NPR article about how computer science became extremely gendered and women just dropped out of computer science, specifically in I think it was 87, 84, 85.
Yeah.
And they've been trying to figure out why, and like things have kind of gotten better for computer science, but like that happened and it affected an entire generation, my generation. And
Yep.
and I just printed out that article and have it in my camp to be like, your experience that you maybe had is very real, and we a lot of us had it. And I had people cry in my camp, like a variety of non-technical people just like show up and be like, oh my fucking God.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm hitting a nerve there
Mhm.
with all of this. Part of my enthusiasm here is I'm like, I feel like I'm onto something.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, there's so many times I've heard, women in particular say that like, oh, like I wish I had taken like I wish I had gone into engineering in school, or I wish I had taken some science classes or something like that. And I feel like every time I hear that, it's with this undercurrent of like, and I missed this opportunity and now it's too late.
Yes.
And I am really trying to be like, no, it is not too late.
Yes.
You can
I
still
love
learn
that.
stuff. Like you can absolutely learn stuff, and you don't need to go to school to do it.
Yes.
If you have an interest, if you have a drive, you can find a community doing something that you think is really cool and
Yep.
dive into a project and start learning stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think people also, it's also, at around the same time, there started to be this decline of technical training and vocational studies, and God, stuff like that is so important. I mean, one of the most important things I learned in college in an engineering curriculum was using machine tools. Like that was one of the most incredible, most important things that I learned, was how to use a lathe and how to use a mill. And like that has helped me in so many ways throughout my life. And that is weird these days to have that as part of an engineering curriculum. It's like the exception to the rule. And so, yeah. And like I learned how to solder, not from other engineers, but from technicians who had been soldering for a long, long time. And yeah. And so I feel like there's almost like this whole generation, like our generation of people who kind of got pushed into this college path as being like book learning being the only way, the right way of doing things, when in fact there's a lot of knowledge that you can pick up in tech, even through hands-on experience and hands-on education.
Very freaking much so. yeah, over and over again, I find myself in situations where someone has academic experience, and this becomes such a problem because it's so venerated in technical interviews or like in like when people are trying to judge who's worthy. It's a game. It's all a game, right? And I find that my hands-on experience, I will doubt myself all the time. I just doubt myself, right? Because it's that thing. Um, but then I find that having done it in real time myself ends up just being more applicable and more useful than a million other ways of going about it. Yes, agreed. And teaching myself, I learn socially and I learn like my own way. I tried to take 3 different online courses around electronics and engineering. I learned a bunch, but I didn't finish any of them. Like it's so hard to do that. It's not like being talked at is not my way of learning.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel you. And I do, why I mentioned specifically that a couple of dudes really were key in getting me to go to a code boot camp is because I've heard that story many times where there's this like jump to make um and you need someone close to you that you're like, yes, they have the skills. They have the authority to be teaching me and that like they have valuable knowledge. And that is, it's such an intense game. It is so gendered. It's so ridiculous. It's so privileged, like so much of this culture and industry. And so I don't know, I just find myself like pretty consistently coming back to trying to create my own onboarding resources for people because that both proves my technical expertise, it helps me learn, and it creates a new onboarding strategy for people to become interested in this kind of thing instead of like some guy being the authority.
Right.
It's just the universal story right now, and I'm really over it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, I have a bunch of stuff to show off
Ooh.
in
Yeah.
that direction. So how do we want to do that? I can
Any way you want. I'm kind of dying to know more about this coat or dress or something that's
we'll start
behind
with
you.
LEDs. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
LED, I say all the time, LEDs are my love language. So around the time that we were building the Magic Tool Bus, I've always been fascinated by LEDs. And I was making stuff with my business with like fairy lights and tea lights. And I would confer with like electronics guys. They were like, I could make you a PCB that was better than your tea light. And that happened. They tried like 3 times and they never managed to make something better. Classic, right?
Yeah.
It was really frustrating, but eventually I was like, well, I bet I could try.
Right?
Yeah.
Since I know what the important things are in how this thing needs to be used.
Yeah. And so LEDs were very much an on-ramp to electronics for me. And I have a series of books that really helped me. This one, The Manga Guide to Electricity.
Nice.
Freaking love that book. That really helped me have confidence. This is a coat that I didn't make. I can vaguely textiles, right? Like I'm comfortable with a sewing machine, but I don't make clothing. I put the electronics in it.
Yay.
And yeah, I have 2 of them. How do I show large coats on a tiny screen?
I know, right?
We're gonna find out. So this one is a coat that I got at a thrift store that I put the fur on. I safety pinned this coat is important because it exemplifies my desire to just brute force my way through anything. And I bought this from a thrift store, made the hood.
Nice.
Because making hoods is a really like fairly simple, good task. Literally safety pinned all of this fur on a decade ago. This was in 2010. I safety pinned this fur on. I have not changed that at all. I've not sewn it. And currently, my USB is janky, but it has LEDs in it. Nope, gonna need to troubleshoot that later. It has LEDs in it, just like this one.
Cool.
Where?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are those? Is that like a strip of
Yeah.
WS2812s, or is it like the stranded?
Yeah.
style?
So this, I use 2812s because for wearables, they're just so cheap and accessible. They're very easy, and I don't like the benefits to any other types. I don't think make sense in wearables. I do have to cut a pixel every couple of years when it goes jank, but like that's fine for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use 2812s a lot, and 2812s come in a lot of different form factors too. So that's great. But yeah, this one I split the LEDs so that they mirror in both directions. And you can't see it in most patterns, but it will start from the hood and go down equally on either side. And I was pretty proud of that small design factor. And then I also made, so when I say brute force, I make things, I have beaten my perfectionism, my inner perfectionist to death. I just don't care about a lot of things as long as I get the effect that I want in the end. And I've been making stuff for events for long enough that I know how to get the effect I want. So for example, these are shoelaces that I had.
That's awesome.
That I safety pinned in place. And when I wear this big furry coat at dance parties, they create backpack straps.
Nice.
Which is a concept I've gotten from like festival culture, but I didn't want to make it harder than that, and I didn't have to. And often you don't. So I'm a big fan of like tearing down gatekeeping in that way, where I learn really technical skills, and I can like all day long I can talk to you about like, you know, WS2812s with the variety of controllers that you can use and the variety of gauges of wire and like what kind of connector. I always use JST, but there's arguments there, and like I can do that, but I really like to be like, nah, you can just
Well, I was going to ask what controller you were using on that.
Yeah, I'm a big old Pixel Blaze fan. I have been for a long time. Ben lives here in Portland. So I met him a couple years back, and we've been fast friends. And so I think I bought a Pixel Blaze right before. No, I bought a Pixel Blaze, and then he showed up at Dorkbot at the makerspace here, and we met, and he was like, "You're Claire. Here's your Pixel Blaze." And we were just
nice.
That was in 2019, I think. So I've actually done a lot to like connect him with community, because I've used a lot of different controllers, and his just makes sense. Like I like to work smarter, not harder, and that's the pinnacle of that.
Nice. Yeah, Ben is super fantastic. He made the rainbow in the background. I can't see which way do I point at it, that rainbow.
Yeah, no, there's a reason this controller is taking over. Awesome. There's like very good reason. Yeah. LEDs. I also have,
and also hi people in the audience. Hello, hello HVAC, hello Hardwire.
I know I'm just kind of like because that's part of what this is. But if anybody has questions, I'm watching the comments and I'm down to answer. So just let me know. So when I say form factors with LEDs, this matters to me because like fur diffuses LEDs in a beautiful way, but how to like wear or travel with LEDs has been a years-long process for me. And I've ended up with like, this is a really cool kind of fairy light form factor. It came out relatively recently. I like making things, but something I like as much or more is I'm a resource dragon. And so I love to just rabbit hole my way down every platform that sells LEDs and check if they have anything new. And I will do that for fun every 6 months. And I will do that with a number of different materials and like interests that I have, just to see I mean,
I
how
feel like
many-
I would like to subscribe to the every 6-month Claire Digest on what's new in LEDs. Because
No,
that would be amazing.
I literally got kind of high the other night and I posted on Facebook and I'm like, I wish there was a way where I could just survive and everybody had their needs met and it was a wonderful world and I could just survive by like being like, hey, I suggest this and just do that.
I think they call those influencers.
I know, but that's the thing is that in this culture and the way it's working right now and just like I don't want to be that guy, you know?
I know.
Right?
But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like an LED influencer is sort of like a different kind of influencer. So
yeah, no, and it goes deep because there's LEDs, but I also do this for all types of acrylic, right? I do this for drones. I do this for electric unicycles. I do this for, I'm just looking around me at the things that I'm into right now. DJing. I just got into DJing and it's fucking fascinating. All I want to do is explain a deck to someone. Like, what? This is my deck.
Oh my God.
I know.
So many buttons. I love it.
And when you look at it, you're like, what the fuck? But some of it you can kind of figure out, like the EQ. And then these buttons, this is just a mouse. This dial and these buttons are just scroll through your music and choose it.
Nice. Okay.
I think that like anyway.
That's awesome.
This is how I exist. Okay, so LED things. I owe a lot to LED Twitter, honestly. Yeah. I did my own thing for a while and I have my whole I have a whole document that is an intro to LEDs for artists and non-technical babes, is what it's called.
Ooh, cool.
It's 17 pages long, but it is.
Yes, there's somebody I need to forward that to, actually, who I was talking about LEDs this weekend and expounding upon the awesomeness of pixel blazes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
We'll wrap back to that. I'm going to go through a couple of things real quick.
Yeah.
I have made, since I'm into LEDs and laser cutting, I'm trying to combine them all of the time. This is an infinity mirror necklace that I made.
Oh my God.
So it's a lightning bolt that's an infinity mirror that is itty bitty, that has 2020 LEDs in it. There's 82 LEDs in this. It's got a Pixel Blaze Pico on the back that is gaff taped to protect myself from the dissipating heat. And a
Jesus,
18650. Why my brain is
18650.
18650, right?
Okay, I'm like, not 2032. Hang on.
No, I know. Because this has 2032s in it. So 18650, yes, that is correct. Which is a hefty battery, but this design is by Deborah, Geek Mom Projects, right? And it's got a magnet.
Yes,
this is fucking genius, because I was also kind of like processing and hacking away on how the fuck do I make powerful LED jewelry. The power in things when you're doing small scale is like the constant problem. So when this came out, I was like, yes, thank you. Now I don't have to do it. Nice. But Ben and Deborah have had a massive influence on me and really upped my game. And I'm really grateful for that. So before I made the Lightning Bolt Infinity Mirror necklace, I made this one, which is with itty bitty seed fairy lights.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it can run on a 2032 battery coin cell. Normally that would not be enough, but these are specialty itty bitty wee LEDs.
Cool.
Yes. Okay. And then with laser cut stuff, the direction I've gone with that, because I did stop Geek Star Costuming, which was my business, and I kind of did a lot of processing and split that up into directing it towards my values and passions and needs. And one is LaserKick, which you found, that's my Etsy shop, where I sell laser cutting designs, because somewhere in my experience of laser cutting, hobby lasers became a thing. And I was like, oh shit, small scale distributed manufacturing, that is my jam. Right? Give people the tools. And I'm personally a big fan of laser cutters to a point where I'll be like, laser cutters are better than 3D printers. And I'm picking a fight that nobody wants to pick with me or cares about. But but I believe it. there's not a better or worse, obviously. They're different, but whatever.
Yeah.
There is weird.
But I like picking that hill, you know, like.
Yes. Yeah. I come from like being non-technical. I had a sign in my booth when I vended at events that said, designed by hand, laser cut by robots, assembled by hand, but oh my God, robots.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that encapsulates, like, people loved that sign. They found it hilarious because it's hitting a cultural tone of these tools, the things we do in electronics, in hardware, are so cool culturally, like punch way above their fucking weight in terms of cultural coolness, right?
Yeah.
And then once you're in it, I don't know about you, but for me, I'm in it and I'm like, well, a lot of this is very boring.
Yep. Yeah.
3D printers and laser cutters get too much clout. Like, it's been true for a lot of tools, like sewing machines versus a hammer, for a long time. But these tools play into that, and it's like, these are maker tools and these are crafting tools. And I'm just like so against that when hobby lasers came out and they started getting merchandised at Joann's, as much as I hate that, I also fucking love that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, no, it's true. I was actually, like, when I got my laser and started hanging out in the laser forums of Facebook, like, I was surprised by the gender parity that I saw in those forums. Actually, there are a lot of women who just like bought a laser and are starting to make shit with it. And I was like, this is cool.
It's the Cricut pipeline. It's
right.
Yeah. And it's so important. It's so freaking important. So anyway, I have feelings about that. And making laser files that people can use is a way that I'm like, yes,
yeah,
this is how I help. So I do that both through LaserKick. And what have I made for LaserKick recently? I get to also, it's like things that align with my values that also feed me personally are my fucking favorite. And making more creative laser files. So I could never make this and hand paint it and sell it through my business, right? But I can make a couple of these, take pictures and sell the file.
Yeah.
And so that upping of like, I can do complex things and sell the files pleases me greatly. And people get complex files, which are hard to do when you're starting off. So that's cool. And then my other project that came out of laser cutting forever is a group called LaserBloc, which is my mutual aid laser cutting and other files resource that I kicked up with my good friend. And now it's a small group of, we call it like matriarchal anarchy. And it's a small group of us that just contributes whatever files we want to design, and we put them in an online repository that we made. And when we feel like and have the energy, we make physical product because we have such a backstock of acrylic and materials. And I have all this experience making merch. We just use those skills and create like a whole batch of jewelry and then give them away at mutual aid fairs here in Portland. Nice. And that means that we get to make designs. I didn't grab any to have really on hand, but we get to make designs that are a little more political and align with fights that we're trying to pick. I just made some Roe v. Wade jewelry recently. Here's another one. You have my Abort the Court.
Yes.
Nice. And we have stuff that is far more in that direction that you can go look up. The URL you want for that is acab.city.
Got it.
But you can also find LaserBloc on a couple of social medias. It's not something that we're doing in the like capitalistic hustle vein most of the time, though sometimes we play with that. And so it's a little tricky to find, but you You can find it.
Cool.
These cunty earrings
Yes.
you have seen are extraordinarily popular for a good
Absolutely.
reason. So that I just made earrings that say I heart drug users for that. Yeah, it's a way for me to like express these things that I need to express, and it's been very healing. I love LaserBloc.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I can just show you a bunch of laser stuff I've made. I have it all right here.
Yeah.
My most recent design is I did a group of designs that I'm calling the ace umbrellas, asexual umbrella. I am on the asexual spectrum. A couple of my friends are. And so I made these and these.
Nice.
And
I love the sparkly.
Right? This is the acrylic you sent me.
Yay!
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
This too. These
Cool.
say gray.
Nice.
Right? Like glitter. Yeah. So I love that. But I am also designing a couple of designs for the Open Hardware Summit for our online goodie bag. I'm going to have some laser cutting files in there, including these resist hardware gears.
Yeah.
Yep. And then
I saw that Pinocchio was a sponsor too. So yeah, that's awesome.
I've been trying to take our little like artistic logos and turn them into files.
Nice. Oh my God. I love the transistor. Those are both awesome. Those are both awesome.
So that and then my more popular stuff, there's the lightning bolts. And I make guillotines. So I make guillotines as both Christmas ornaments and as earrings. And the guillotine earrings are actually by far and away my most viral popular file. They've been spotted physically in so many different states that friends just send me like reports of spotting them, which means that I've sold a file that is being produced on mass scale all over the country. And it's a guillotine. I'm exceptionally proud of that one.
Subversive goals achieved.
Absolutely. I've hit that note and I wish to hit it again. Yeah.
Yes.
And then a couple of things we've made through LaserBloc. I've got some Hack the Planet.
Yes. Cool. So okay, that is can you hold that up again? So it's a black with a mirror.
Yep. Okay. So some techniques. I did grab some pieces to show off some techniques. And this is silver mirror that has been engraved away and then painted on the black on the back. And that do I have others like that? Yeah, we do that relatively often. With mirrored acrylic, that's quite easy to do because you just engrave away the backing. I love mirrored acrylic for this. You engrave away the backing and you can just paint over the entire backing instead of having to be really specific. These are clear acrylic, so I had to be so meticulous, right?
Yeah.
Oh, here's another. This is on mirrored gold. And so
very cool.
Major high voltage.
Yeah.
The back is kind of a mess, but it can be.
Okay. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
So for you to know.
And then now I want oh God damn it. Mind blanking.
Felt. There's a lot of info here.
God. Okay, go on. I will remember this later.
Okay. These are wood and paint pens.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
And a tip for that is if you do score lines where the rainbow is supposed to go, it makes your life a lot easier. I didn't do that with this, but I do that sometimes. Do you also, laser cutting tips and tricks. This is for you, Carrie. Everybody else can learn if they want to. But do you know about raising your laser twice the height to diffuse your beam?
I do. I haven't played
Perfect.
with it very much yet,
Okay.
but I do. I have heard about that. I've heard about that. I've heard about raising your acrylic off of the honeycomb in order to prevent flashback.
Yeah.
Those are two things that I have wanted to play with but haven't yet.
I use transfer tape on both sides of all of my material, and so I don't have to raise my material.
Yeah.
But you can do either. Yeah. And then that becomes really useful. I end up using that technique all the time because I engrave away the back of mirrored acrylic a lot. And so this that I showed you, we went over these, and these are engrave away, say, letters and then infill the letters. But I've been playing with this technique where you engrave around.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And it's a whole process. It's like a 4-step process in making the file where I have to cut away and then like make sure the cut line is still there, but most of it's engraved. But like it's, I'm thinking I should eventually make a tutorial. I don't like throwing myself at I don't need to hustle for myself these days.
Yeah.
I don't need to be an influencer. I don't need to make a name for myself in the same way that I have. And so sometimes I come across actual applicable skills, just like this one, that I do kind of want to get out there, but I don't make videos. But we'll see. I'm moving in that direction slowly. Like refusing to be a teacher, but eventually teaching a little.
Written tutorials are still a good place for them, I think. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's still how I prefer how to learn how to do things is the written versus the video. But
yeah. Me too. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
So that's a lot of laser stuff. I just want to show off something I'm exceptionally proud of. Like I've made cool stuff, but something I've done is I have taught several other people how to do the same things. And so I have a whole community around me who like this. I know my friend Hannah is in the audience, and she made this design. You can't really read it, but this is one of her early designs. And this is actually a more recent design. And it just shows like in the last 2 years, she's just become nearly better than me at laser cutting. And like, that's my goal, right? This is another artist friend who was so scared to touch my laser. And we just spent a weekend together. She eventually did. And then she just started, that says protect thyself on the top. She just started using the feature of hand drawing and then scanning it into the Glowforge.
Interesting.
And she just became super prolific at that. And so I have people around me who can do things better than I can, and that's one of my biggest flexes.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Do we have a little more time? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we have got plenty of time.
5 o'clock. I have some. We can either go in a direction of looking at a couple other physical things that I have to show off, or I have some tabs to share in a screen share. Yeah, I don't know.
Let's do some tabs.
Okay.
I want to see more projects.
Yeah.
Now, you made a like a spotlight. I don't know what to call it, but like a spotlight message thing, right? That was like laser.
Hey, yes, that's okay. Yep, that's
okay.
Cool. Okay, yeah, I'll show that, and then I'll show the tutorial in a tab because I have
excellent.
So this is, I designed this with a previous colleague, my partner that I've drifted apart from, but while we were together, we designed a bunch of things, and this is one of my favorites. It's a Gobo projector, a handheld projector designed out of hardware store parts. And so this is, I won't pull it out, but this front part here is a lens that you can find in those big old bubble lens TVs with like the ones with the big back have 3 of these lenses in them right along the bottom. That's how they work. And it's like lens projection style of TV. And you can find those. We would find those on the side of the road because Portland has like a prolific free pile community. And twice we found TVs and we pulled out 3 of these. So we had 6 of these.
Nice.
This is a Fernco coupler for 1.5 to 4. So you have to order it specialty online, but it's just a PVC coupler. We ended up using a lot of plumbing supplies for a lot of different things. They're really fucking useful. And then this is a standard LED flashlight. These powerful LED flashlights have become extremely common. I often say we're in this weird limited golden age of hardware. It's not going to last forever, but it is a golden age of hardware. And so you can just access materials like crazy. And so like powerful LED flashlight. And then you can just laser cut a stencil.
Nice.
I will pull this out. At first, I was using 1/16 acrylic, but it turns out that 1/8 is just fine. But this is 1/16.
Nice.
And I've experimented with both cutting out the message or using clear acrylic and engraving the message. And you can get a much more detailed message with an engrave. Both kind of work, but the cutout shows up way better. So what it does is you can adjust the focus manually by hand by pulling it in and out. Of
Nice.
course, right? Like it's silly simple. And then I put the lens in backwards.
I was thinking for a minute. I'm like, oh, I wonder if her thing is mirrored for me.
No, I just put the lens in backwards.
That's all right.
But you can this will throw a good 40 to 50 feet. Dang. And be very legible. We used these a lot in the 2020 protests, and nice. I love them for that kind of situation because they don't look like anything, and you can just like I stood right in front of a fairly tenuous situation and had it on my shoulder, and nobody clocks me, right? Like just white woman, and like nobody notices when you're holding this. So, and they're fairly easy to make. I have had people replicate them. And the flashlights run on 18650 batteries again. I've ended up just wholesaling those and chargers for them and like giving them out. They're so useful. I love LiPo batteries. Solar is a whole thing that I love. Batteries. So that, and we are going to look at some tabs.
Yeah, you should just be able to click the present button and it should just go. Ooh, there we go. I'm seeing something.
Yeah, okay. So this is, got to scroll to the top. It's up to 30 pages now. This is my intro to adjustable LED strips for artists and non-technical babes. It is, and so this.
And where do we find this?
I know. I did think about this before this live stream. And here's the thing. I haven't released this because it's not done. But it is done enough to be super useful for people. And I am very into not gatekeeping people because of my embarrassment. So I have been giving it to people a lot. I have a QR code on my phone and a chip in my hand that has the link to this. So I can send you a link and I will be releasing it. If people are fine with just following me on Mastodon or Twitter, when I do go public with it, I will be making a big deal about it. And you'll be able to easily find it then. You can also DM me on any platform and be like, nah, I could really use this right now. And I will send you a link. But I really purposefully, like I've been like mentioning, it kind of comes up all the time that I balance that hustle, right? Like this is a thing I want to share, and I think I want to be accessible to people, but I'm down with it just being a Google Doc and something that is just kind of shared grassroots and virally. I don't need it to be a big thing, right? Yeah, I made a lot of these pictures.
Dang, this is amazing.
Yeah. Come on, load. My computer is slow.
I love how you, you know, have life-size comparisons of all of the sizes. And I mean, this is a super handy guide for like even for technical babes, you know, like
yes, it really is. Yeah, no, I love making this because I had to. It's the Feynman method, right? If you can't teach teach your thing to someone young, then you don't know it. And so I'm constantly refining this so that a variety of ability levels could learn from it. And I learned so much doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is one of my big ones, but off of this concept of just like starting Google Docs that I then edit over time that are repositories of information that I know, I have also started a solar resources. Because I fucking love solar, and I find it, I don't know, the LED to solar pipeline was very real to me. Yeah, I just like the idea of being able to meet my own needs for power. I've tasted that rainbow in the tool bus. I like had off-grid power, and I love it. I can't go back. So I want everybody to have access to that. This is the projector tutorial, handheld graffiti projector tutorial. This is a repo right now because the website went down, but I'm
still seeing the LEDs. Do you have to share a different tab or?
Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah, no, I see the little thing.
Ah, there we go. Cool.
Solar resources.
Yeah.
So we'll screw through this for a second. That's what I babbled about a second ago.
Cool.
Yep.
Nice.
It's basically a list of resources and passion.
I like the dude solar panels.
Nice. Here is the tutorial for the graffiti projector.
Nice.
Cool. Here is an example of the cutout stencil and the engraved stencil.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Yep. And then here is LaserBloc. So this is our little website, and we
still on the GitHub repo. There we go. Yeah.
I will learn slowly but surely. I'm a very advanced AI. We have files for all of our stickers, jewelry, stencils, signage, flyers, and zines. We're starting to put files from other groups on here. And so this is, if you click on any of these, you can find all these different designs, pictures of what they look like, and then the files themselves.
Cool.
Yeah. Then there is... here, now we're just moving into things I've done, because sharing information in this way is a huge passion of mine. So a lot of my projects revolve around this kind of thing these days. This is a PDF I send out with every one of the files I sell through LaserKick. Cool. And it's really just trying to up the game of anybody who's new to laser cutting. Like here's the focus height thing, acrylic tips, how the different colors work. Yeah. And then I do have also, I think this is fun, some pictures of when I say that I set up booths, I don't know that people understand what I mean. I built these spaces myself. I designed them, hauled them, built them, and sold out of them for every weekend for months, for years.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, so it was a really physical task. Yeah.
We just got back from a 4-day long show, and like I still need 3 more days worth of sleep.
Very much so. Oh man, is it a grind?
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else in here?
That is
I think
amazing.
that's most of it. Okay, we're gonna come back to here. I'm back.
Yay.
That's just a couple of my online projects. Yeah, and let me think. After this live stream, I'll post a link to the LED doc on Mastodon.
Yeah,
So go
that would
find
be
me on
awesome.
Mastodon. Yeah, because
Cool.
I'm not I don't have a problem with it being out there. I just don't want like Make Magazine to feature it right now. You know, it's not
right.
that kind of thing. But like people can have it with the caveat of like it's not done. And that document at the bottom links to my other tutorials. So it has my solar document and it has the graffiti projector tutorial. And I wrote an entire like 17 to 20 page document on resources for overwhelm. I wrestle with the term mental health, but like I am a big mental health nerd, and I have been introspecting and working on my shit for years, and that is as much of a passion of mine as all of this. And so I tend to make resources in that direction, and that document for overwhelm is geared at that.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's a lot of what I do.
You're a resource machine.
I'm a resource machine. I do think it's starting to show. Yeah. Because a lot of people like resources and like I've been calling it force multiplying. They're like conversational cantrips where I use jargon to make a concept shiny, and saying I'm a force multiplier has been doing that lately.
Nice. I like it.
For crowd supply, I say I engineer engineers because I hate calling myself a project manager because I'm always trying to move away from being seen as soft or creative or you know, I'm trying to be seen as technical. It's this ridiculous game we play.
Yeah. I imagine though that, I mean, I can't think of like a better person to wrangle engineers who are getting started in a business for the first time though. I mean,
I think
all
so.
of your experience is amazingly like on point, incredibly relevant. And I mean, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. And if you, I obviously have opinions. That's my day job is crowd supply. And so just day in and day out, I'm running projects. I'm running them through the crowdfunding portion, but we also fulfill, like, it's much more than just crowdfunding. And we're shaping and guiding and bumper railing that the whole way through. I just babysit engineers. And so, so I do see just really common hiccups and like holes that people fall into. Yeah, it's interesting. Takes a lot of brain space. I do think I'm good at it.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Can I show off some sparkly acrylic?
Now would be a great time.
Okay. So let's see. I'm going to add this one. So what I've been working on lately is, and so like kind of revealed this a couple weeks ago on the yarn Instagram. But I've been working on something called Swift. And this style of Swift is called an umbrella Swift. And the thing that you do with a Swift is you unwind yarn with it. Oh. So
what?
Yeah. So over this way. Okay. You have a skein of yarn, and which is just a fancy word for a big loop of yarn that's wound in a loop, right? If you tried to knit straight from the loop, it would be a tangled mess. So
Right.
you need to transform the loop of yarn into a different form factor of yarn that does not tangle as you're knitting from it. And so what you can do is wind a ball, and you can do that by hand or with tools. But you need something to hold the yarn open. And as you're pulling the yarn, it has to rotate so that the yarn unwinds in a very nice, orderly fashion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is problems that I've run into and didn't know how to solve for. So I'm very excited right now. Of course, there's tools for this.
Oh man, I could talk a lot about yarn handling, yarn management. It's one of my things.
Yes.
So this style is called an umbrella swift. You can probably tell why it's called an umbrella swift, right? It has like a expanding collapsing mechanism, and you just expand it until it fits your yarn. And then you can like untie your yarn and pull an end from it, and it goes. Whoo. And so it started off that I'm working on a ball winder, but as I was working on the ball winder, I was like, I could probably like make a Swift, and I could probably like laser cut this because I now have a laser cutter. And so therefore everything is a laser problem when you have
it is though. No, it really is though.
It is. And so like at first I was just like, oh, it would be fun to have like colorful different colors of acrylic. Cool. And then I saw that you could buy glitter acrylic, and I like lost my shit. And then like not only can you buy glitter acrylic, but you can buy like sparkly iridescent stars.
Yeah, you can just do that.
Like you can just buy that. Like when you're an adult and you have a credit card, you can just like go buy that. Like nobody tells you can't have the sparkly iridescent star acrylic.
Yes.
Which is pretty awesome. So I kind of went crazy and got like a bunch of different colors of acrylic, and the tools aren't for sale yet. The Swifts aren't for sale yet. These are like the first ones that I've built, and they need to be beta tested. And there are even a few things that I learned from this weekend that I need to incorporate before I beta test. But one of the things that we were doing was taking a poll, we were allowing people to vote on their favorite colors and their favorite combinations of things. And so this was our little test card with all of our little acrylic pieces on it. Glue dots for the win, by the way. Glue dots are amazing.
Yes, glue dots are amazing.
Yeah. And so we have like the plain glitter in the middle, which is just incredibly sparkly and amazing. And then we have like the super specialty stuff on the side. So there are iridescent stars. There are these like sort of iridescent-y maple leaves, which I thought were like nice and fall and knitting themed. Then there are glitter flakes, which are super cool. And then perhaps my favorite is this marbled, glittery, galaxy looking stuff. And so I made a space Swift that was a combination of this one on the outside and this one on the inside, so that when you rotate it, it kind of like looks like stars.
Cool.
Yeah. And so we demoed these, and people lost their shit, which was awesome. I'm like, yay! I'm losing my shit about the same things that other people are, and they might buy my stuff. Yay!
The endless game. I really, really get it.
So yeah, it was really exciting, and it was really great to get that feedback. And now we're I'm kind of in the buttoning up phase, and working on just like making a design that can withstand probably more abuse than what I will give it.
Yeah. Right.
And working on, getting supplies of these specialty acrylics, trying to get the sheets in a size that doesn't have as much waste, and like maybe exploring some volume pricing and stuff. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm hoping that I can bring sparkly acrylic Swifts to the masses. It is definitely a goal.
Yeah. That's so dope. You know, just saying the least amount of material wasted. Part of, like, when I was talking about precious plastic earlier, this whole like we're going through acrylic thing. This is a rabbit hole I've gone down really hard, and there's whole communities that have kind of sprung up, or well, there's individuals that I've found that have gone down holes of chopping up, mostly this works with glitter and translucent and matte acrylic, not mirrored.
Okay.
But you can chop up acrylic, and if you reheat it and press it, and the trick seems to be having the exact temperatures and timings of press. And you have the right press, and these are old industrial presses you can buy on eBay. People have figured out how to remelt them into sheets, cuttable sheets again.
Oh, that's so interesting. So basically any acrylic that was cast to begin with, is that the trick?
Yep.
Okay.
It seems like extruded and cast both.
Oh, both? Okay.
I think so. Huh. But this is a whole, I just went down and was like, I had been thinking about how that must be possible, but I couldn't figure it out for a while. And I was like, other people, if I'm really wondering something and this community, this niche is growing, other people must be wondering it. And so I never managed to actually do that, but I've seen people do it. And I even like signed up for a workshop just so I could have the PDF. I didn't go to the workshop, but just for the information. And I have that somewhere. Yeah. And there's this whole thing where you can take scrap spaghetti filament from PLA in particular from prints, yes. And you can press it on a t-shirt press, and you can laser cut that. And since you can do that, you can, have you seen what you can do with, oh my God, my brain is saying dichroic, but not dichroic, diffraction film.
Oh,
diffraction film.
No.
So there's this whole rabbit hole of 3D printing onto diffraction film. And diffraction film is the film in the paper glasses that make stars out of light.
Yeah.
That's called diffraction film. And it's actually made, like, you hold up sheets. I swear, I asked people about this, and this is what they told me. You hold sheets up to a laser, and the laser scratches itty bitty marks into the plastic physically.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
Rainbow effect is a physical pattern on the plastic because physics.
Yeah, it's an actual diffraction grating. Yeah.
I love light. Yeah. So if you 3D print onto that, your 3D prints have that same iridescent look to them. Oh, so you can recycle spaghetti PLA filament and make it iridescent. And I have done this. And then you can laser cut it.
Nice.
It's a lot of work. Both of these things never made sense for me as a small business, but I love that they're starting to happen because this cottage hobby laser cutting industry is just like,
great. Yes. Yeah.
So
cool. Oh, we have some questions.
Do we?
It's exciting. Yes. Well, there's a lot of excitement about everything, which is cool.
Yeah. Yes.
I missed the what the astounding amount of work is related to. Because I didn't catch that comment at the time, but I'm curious.
Kelsey is my friend. Hi, Kelsey. A lot of these people are my friends. I have good friends.
Yay. Are there programs for acrylic cutting like vinyl where you can scan what you have left and design around it to use what's left? I know that the laser cutter that I have has a camera option.
Yep.
So you can do that with the camera that's like pointed down, and you can put your sheet into the laser cutter, and then I'm using Lightburn so that you can then see it on Lightburn and then actually like manipulate and put your remaining pieces over it.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there's at least that can happen.
Yeah, my laser has a camera too. And I think that as the technology has gotten better, it's a lot easier to fit. Like, I have pieces of acrylic that are just entirely holes, and I keep them because there's like that much space left and I know I can use it. But even after all that, you still
not the only one.
Oh, absolutely. No, this is a laser thing. Yeah, you still end up with just a ton of scrap, even with that.
Yeah. Yes, the astounding amount of work with all of the conventions. I totally agree. Like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, I was in such a bubble that I didn't even really see it that way. It was just what I needed to do to survive, you know?
So much grid wall slinging.
Yeah. Yep. I have opinions on Gridwall, unsurprisingly.
It has one job, which is to try to kill you.
Yeah, I feel that. I
Yeah.
had more than one topple over my decade of setting up booths for sure.
Boy.
Yeah.
Boy.
Okay, I think I have just a few more interesting things.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah. So resources, right? Like that's obviously a big thing of mine. And I don't have a need to make all of my things that same like no need to be a perfectionist, work smarter not harder, brute force things, resource dragon. I like, and I make tech money now. I come from a poor upbringing. I now make tech money. I can just buy stuff and I love doing it. Like I'm wickedly not into capitalism and all of that. Super on board. I think we've gotten my like moral stance at this point, but
yeah.
Also, you can just buy things like a tiny astronaut that produces green lasers.
What? Oh my God.
Buy green lasers now. They will just sell them to you. Sell them to children.
Right. Right. You could just go and buy sparkly acrylic.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Like we're in this weird like age of like access to creative materials. And I do think that is really important.
I could remove sparkly acrylic now.
And then along the lines of how I just inherently really want to inspire people who don't feel like they can engage with tools or all these gate-kept things. I just inherently I fight that with color and passion. And an example is my go bag.
Ah, dang. Nice.
I love this thing. This really like this is a lot of me in this bag because
is that a rainbow of USB cables?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes, that one. Yeah,
I saw that. I'm like, are those USB cables? Because like I feel like I need a rainbow of USB cables.
It's A, micro, C, and lightning. It's
nice.
Useful. Yeah, this is a legit go bag with this is an IFAC medical kit. I have all of the recommended level 2 go bag supplies in here. Because like
what are some of those?
What
are some of those?
Yeah, there's a resource for this. So the prepared .org, which is now Scope of Work.
Yes.
We know that that's in our sphere, but the prepared.com is actually like a group of expert survivalists, the ones that they bring in on like reality survival shows to consult that kind of person that's just like been doing that for a long time. They made a website called theprepared.com, which is much more like it's very tearing apart gatekeeping around prepping culture.
Oh, interesting. Cool.
Which I love. It makes it very accessible to anybody. Yeah, if you're into this kind of thing, I just the world is an intense place and has been for a while. And I've been an activist. And eventually I just learned that being prepared is not silly and it's not paranoid and it makes me feel better and it's fun. And if I start like having the things around me that will help me in an emergency before I need them, I can make it fun. I can make it like glamping, right? Because I've gone down a hole of like, what would I do if things really went sideways? And I went through a hole that I see a lot of people going through these days of you really have to grieve for like an emotional hole of like grief and panic. And there's a lot of rough emotions. And from there, you can't be creative or problem solving. So you have to go through that like emotional ringer. And learn how to cope in a chaotic, changing world that is really kind of scary right now, particularly for my community. I have a lot of disabled and trans friends. So doing this in a way that is creative and fun and colorful, and I can engage with someone and be like, yeah, I did this and here's why. And they're like, wow, that's interesting. Could I also do that? That's like everything to me. And this bag encapsulates that, right? So I have keychains for a reason. I really specifically don't go for tactical, like camo or black, anything. I have, this is a multi-tool.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
A particularly large knife and scissors on it, which I find ridiculously useful. It was also like $20 and is quite robust. My friend bought me a Flipper Zero, which I appreciate. I also I teach lock picking because I find it's a really evocative hobby that
I need to learn that better. I've only played around a little bit with it and I was not very good at it.
I hear that all the time. And to be honest, I'm kind of in the same place, but I've been teaching it to people and they become better than me. And that feels good.
Yeah.
And there are practice locks you can buy. So this is a clear lock.
Yeah.
This is a cutaway lock.
Nice.
So it's like a regular lock that they've cut away all the
cool
outside so you can see the pins and everything. Yeah. And then I carry a bunch of different USB cords, clearly. Like lights, little tape measures, tools. I have a ring that is a D20. I swap around what keychains are on here. Yeah.
Nice.
And then I also got myself a Ponagachi, which is a cute little Wi-Fi handshake sniffing project. Nice. I found a maker on Etsy who is a woman in San Francisco who's assembling these. And I was like, fuck yes, because I don't want to have to make one.
Yeah.
You want to learn about Wi-Fi sniffing.
Cool.
Yeah. So I carried that around and then people see it and they're like, is that a Tamagotchi? And I explain what it is. And often I'm talking to like women and queer people and it's delightful.
Nice.
Yeah. So I also have like drones and my portable soldering kit and a lot of my supplies for the electronics camp that I run, but I think you get the idea. Yeah.
Cool. So, interesting. So Hardwire says on the recycling materials aspect, the Recreator 3D turns old Ender 3D printers into machines that turn soda bottles into filament.
I've been seeing that. There's a couple of TikToks that I have saved.
Interesting.
That's starting to be a thing like just now. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit before, we still have a bit of time. Okay. Tell me a little bit about what you are doing with and for OSHWA. And tell us about like the summit and stuff like that, because I know that that's coming up.
Yeah. So I have been, since I first learned about the concept of open source, and I was like, oh, that's like crafting tutorials. I don't know, I've been passionate about the culture of open source physical things for a long time. And in November of, last year, year before that, November before last,
2021.
Yeah, I saw that OSHWA was hiring for their summit team. Mm-hmm. And I applied. No, I think they wanted a community coordinator or something. Don't quite remember, but I applied and they were like, yes, we'd love you. And I ended up being on the summit team as the talks chair. And that's a really good position for me because I come from events. And so that's pretty comfortable for me. I understand the layout of that. But I work with Alicia, and who is the director of OSHWA, and Lee, and Sid, and they're just a fantastic team. We were all the team for last year's summit, which was fully virtual, and we're the team for this year's summit, which is also in person. and I'm still the talks chair. And I also have taken on being the currently kind of quiet but main moderator for the OSHWA Discord, because I run the crowd supply Discord, and this is one of those kind of side jobs that companies are like, yes, please help us. And I really resist being pushed in a community or like social media direction, because women tend to get pushed in those directions. But I do like Discord is a non-intuitive, interesting platform, and I like managing it. So
I feel like good discourse happens on Discord.
Exactly.
There we go. I'm like, wait, no, that's not what I was trying to say. Yeah.
No, heard. I like just having an excuse to be on there, seeing all the conversations go by. It benefits me.
Nice.
So the summit this year, I am like, it's our first time back in person for 3 years, right? So I am ridiculously excited. I've never been before. If you remember, I pivoted into this industry at the start of the pandemic, so I literally haven't really gone to anything. And
yeah, me neither. Like SuperCon, well, there was like Silicon and then SuperCon. Those were like my first 2 events with like makers and hackers and stuff like that last year. Yeah, they were super fun. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Wild. Yeah, SuperCon was my one last year. Yeah, SuperCon was great because of all of y'all that I got to meet.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, so
this and soldering on the floor, like, you know.
Just socially making stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. With all these people that I'm a huge fan of online. That's what we're shooting for the summit to be. I love our lineup of speakers. We do it through a pretty equitable ranking. We like have a bunch of board members rate different talks, and we don't just base it on just what we want. And so it always ends up being like, I think it ends up being a good mix. And I'm particularly excited for this lineup. So yeah, go check it out. That's just, if you just Google 2023 Open Hardware Summit, it pops right up. It's a bright pink website. You can't miss it.
Yeah. Is there an overall theme to this year's or anything, or other than open source hardware? Like,
I should know that. I want to say there's directions that we ask people to go in, but no big overarching theme that I think. Yeah, we're really just trying to get people in person and do it well, because it's intense. Yeah.
What kind of talks? Like, I know you said that there was like that everybody kind of got input, and then at the end that there was a ranking system, but are there any specific kinds of talks that you generally look for, or like what do you all get excited about when you read somebody proposing?
Good question. So
just trying to plant seeds out there for people who might be interested in talking or have something interesting to say or share.
Yeah, for sure. So the heart of the open source hardware community, the OSHWA community, is very, I wish to make an open source something that will make the world better. And that is particularly evocative right now. When I joined OSHWA, I feel like it really was in this, like, it's been in this booming phase of the public is starting to understand open source hardware because of the 2020, because masks in 2020 were very that exact phenomenon. And people were like, oh, small scale distributed machines, people who understand files, how to make them, how to share them, and then people to just run the machines, and then people to distribute to places. Like, that was a beautiful example of open source hardware, right? Like, horrible that we had to do it, great that it fucking worked. And I point to that as an example all the time when people are like, what are you talking about? And And so we don't require OSHWA certification of your project to be in the summit whatsoever. We really don't check. We just care that you are contributing something valuable to you or to other people. Like, we try not to be the judge and jury on what is valuable, but also we stay away from pitches. We really don't want corporate sells, and people get confused about the boundary there, right? And we understand there's like you run a business, like a lot of these people run a business on these things to make a living. That's not a problem, but you need your talk to provide actual tangible value, not be a lead to something you're trying to pitch, right? Yeah. There's been a wide variety of really fascinating talks. It tends to attract some of the coolest things that I've seen, and I've seen a lot, right? Resource Dragon. Yeah. So it's there was a guy last year who brought up precious plastic. That was his whole bent, was precious plastic in the Netherlands. He was introducing it to his academic setting, things like that. Or Open Source Ecology is a group that designs open source farming equipment in large scale and just like releases that information. There have been an outrageous number of initiatives through governmental organizations internationally and academia, where we're seeing open sourced medical equipment or open sourced farm equipment or open sourced all of these like usually much more gate kept things, because all of these organizations are panicking a little trying to figure out what to do, and open source hardware is an avenue that a lot of them are starting to explore. So we just get a lot of that kind of thing. So we get everything from individuals to like big academic groups to governmental groups. We got a lot of governmental groups last year doing medical open source.
Cool.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah. Nice.
We have a Discord for OSHWA right? Because I run it. And I do, I don't know, I'll post a link in my Mastodon to a lot of these things that I've mentioned to try to give people endpoints. Maybe that's
cool.
Good.
And we'll try to duplicate those links in the description to the live stream after the fact.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. So I think like my last couple of questions are, because I mean, I know I haven't asked too many questions, but I mean, you covered a lot of what my questions were going to be, which is awesome. Yes. The whole backstory and lasering and stuff like that. But like, yeah, so if you could do anything, what would you want to do? And like more of, and like projects or work, whatever. And like, what's on you mentioned electric unicycles, which I am interested in hearing more about in terms of like things that you're learning about, and DJing. And I have to plug a friend of mine a little bit here. So when I was in high school, there was a girl who was, I'm trying to remember how many years above me she was, but it was probably like 3 or 4 years above me. And she was all like, I'm going to be a DJ and my DJ name is going to be Spider. And like during the pandemic, damned if like I didn't manage to like find her Facebook. And what is she doing? She is DJing. It's like not her full-time job, but she like regular gigs for sure.
Yeah.
And she DJs under the name that DJ Spider, and she's awesome. And she does epic cosplays too.
Yes,
really
my people.
To see. Exactly. So when you said DJing, I'm like, oh man, I have to tell you about Suzanne because she's awesome. Yeah.
I feel like there are things during the pandemic that there are a few hobbies that just shifted because you can practice them at home. I've seen this explosion of roller skating, right? Like I'm a big TikTok person. And so a lot of this is like what I'm seeing through TikTok, but female DJs or just like generally queer, like not just cis white dude DJs are just like, and maybe it's because I have access to international DJs through TikTok, but It just feeds them to me, and I see new ones all day, every day, and it is such a fucking joy. I never expected anything like that in my lifetime. Like, it's so good. Yeah, okay, so I do think I have two interesting points about why I want to learn electric unicycling and why I'm learning DJing. Because and why I want to learn drones and why I want to learn radio. So, electric unicycling in 2020, there were really big protests here in Portland, and it's a very big activist culture. And there's a whole mini group called Corkers, and they're the people that block the streets to keep protesters safe. And they're really amazing people. And it's they're on bikes or on motorcycles. And now they're on electric unicycles, and they are a really excellent tool in that environment. They're small, they're quick, you can be in people, you can stop fast, they're safe in a lot of ways. So that inspired me heavily. Also, like, it's got the gyro duck, like, doofy but cool, which I love. I love things that are just like, what? No.
Yeah. Like, electric what?
What? But they are quite difficult, and my electric unicycle is the most difficult. It's only a 10-inch wheel, Gotway. It's a Gotway M10, and so it's squirrely as shit. And I still just don't have enough reasons to get out of the goddamn house to practice it. So I'm still in the beginner intermediate stage, but I'm close. I sometimes go out in my ski suit with ski poles.
Nice.
Yeah, hot tip: if you're learning electric unicycles, get ski poles.
Get ski poles.
Changed my life.
Nice. Tennis balls on the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why I'm learning DJing? I have always had a tendency to just like see something that is cool, that is dominated by dudes, and be like, I could do that. And and now I have a lot of money to like buy the equipment. But DJing in particular it's that, and it's more than that. I take care of myself and my mental health. And a lot of my, like, I've been through a lot in life. That's why I'm passionate about mental health. And so I have to take care of myself emotionally. And I do that sensorily, through sensory input. I care about my environment and my sensory input. And so it's a lot of my passion for lighting. It is also my passion for sound. And I've ended up making so many playlists, like all of this energy for resources, it goes into music and playlists. I listen to so much new music all the time. And I eventually was just like, I think, like, it took me to 35 to have the hubris as a woman to be like, no, I should play my music in front of people. But I'm basically there. And
Cool.
I love big portable Bluetooth speakers. I care about good sound. And so now I own a very large but very portable 18-hour Bluetooth speaker and a DJ deck. And I could show up to, say, an activist protest or something like that and DJ.
Nice.
Which is also a skill I really want. I went to the Occupy protests. I went to the Occupy ICE protests. This is just something I've done a lot. And over time, I've wanted to gain more skills that could be useful in a variety of places.
Nice.
So that's exciting for me.
That's awesome.
Drones, I didn't care until I saw first-person view tiny whoops. Does any of that sound familiar? Okay.
No, I'm not familiar.
Drones come in this size.
Yeah.
And they're ducted. And when they're ducted in this size, under 4 inches, they're called tiny whoops. So first of all, that name, great. Like, yes, I want that. And second of all, they can be FPV, first person view. So you put on goggles, you see what the drone sees. These can fly around indoors. And you could, for example, build a complex, gorgeous laser cut LED maze full of mirrors and disco balls, and then you could fly a tiny drone through them, and you could see it with your eyes, and then everything would be perfect. So I'm not the only person who thinks this. There's huge communities doing this. They're really, really gatekeepy. Like all of these things, so intensely gatekeepy. And when I first saw the like international Tiny Whoop invitational, and it was a horde of dudes in Colorado, I was like, this is too cool, way too cool of an experience to be owned by these people. Like I need, and I set myself up for this kind of thing way too often where I'm like, I need to teach myself how to do this, and then I need to teach it to all of the people around me, and then we need to form our own goddamn league of queers and women who are going to compete.
No, it's funny because it's like you know how like Silicon Valley is so like, oh, blah blah blah, ripe for disruption. I feel like it's like ripe for disruption.
Whoa, okay. And again, I don't believe that I should be the voice of diversity. Like that's such a catch-22 here, is like there's a problem I'm already running into. I read a really good article about this a while ago, and then it started happening to me where like queer white women will be put in charge of diversity initiatives in corporate environments. And I'm like, I can't speak to any person of color's experience. I can't speak to any trans person's experience. I can't.
Need many people. Need many people.
I'm like the manic pixie diversity girl right now.
Manic pixie diversity girl. I feel like this could be a Halloween costume or something.
Constantly trying to fight that, and also I have power now, so I wish to wield it well. And I'm just always walking these lines. And I'm not, this doesn't need to be answered or fixed or anything. I just want the audience to be aware of where I'm coming from, I think.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. So drones, and then ham radio. I have a Baofeng handheld standard fuckery and antennas around here somewhere, but the ham community is also just like wildly gatekeepy. But that's fine. Like I have taken steps in all of these directions, and I think of all of these things as a cloud, and I am a bubble within that cloud, and I hit like 4 or 5 of these things at a time, and I just move around slowly within the cloud.
Nice. Yeah.
So ham radio, for example, I got my license. I know how to use it, but I don't all that much because I'm still figuring out exactly how I want to use this. I really like software-defined radio, and I want to know how to internet without internet, right? This also plays into the like prepping thing, and like I know that you can bounce a fucking radio signal off the ionosphere and reach New Zealand at the right times. Like I just wish this hits all of my needs of like, that's fascinating, I want to learn, that's also useful, like
yeah
radio. Yeah,
cool.
That's what comes to mind. I'm sure there's more. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, unless there are any more questions from the people in the chat, which thank you everybody for showing up and for chatting. That is awesome. Always good to have some friends in the audience.
Seriously. Thank you so much, friends. Thank you so much.
Totally. Thank you. All right. It's pretty much 6. So I feel like we should call it a live stream.
This has been a really thorough overview of Claire, which I typically want to do. So thank you so much for this space.
Thank you for being willing to share. That's awesome. It is so cool to hear all about your projects and to like basically like jump into these rabbit holes after you, because well, it's always fun to talk to somebody who's enthusiastic about things because it makes you enthusiastic about it too. It's like, oh no, I think that this is really cool and this is why. And yeah, that's what I love.
Yeah. I get I was get sucked into a hole in my room, and I was prepping for this for a couple of hours today. I was like, oh no, I'm also into that, and I'm also into that, and I'm also into that. So like, seriously, thank you. Like, this made my day a lot better, and it helped remind me who I am, which thank you. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. And yes, I can't wait to see you at whatever next event brings us together.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Seriously.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think it's time to end the broadcast. Thank you again, everybody, for coming. And we'll see you probably in 2 weeks. I'm trying to do live streams every kind of 2 weeks-ish now, because every week was just a little too much for me. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Cool. See ya.
Bye, everybody. Thank
Bye.
you.